Today is a pretty difficult day in Newtown, Connecticut. Today marks 10 years since a gunman entered Sandy Hook Elementary School, killing 20 first graders and 6 educators. The front page of the Connecticut Post pays tribute to the victims of the shooting. As the Post notes, in the 10 years since, the families of the victims have been left to grieve, cope, and to work to moving forward while honoring the lives of their children and family members. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. And Senator, so much has not changed in some ways since Sandy Hook, which is difficult. There's been some movement on gun reform, but certainly not enough.
Yeah, listen, this whole world, this country has changed. I'll send my 8th grader and 5th grader off to school today, and they enter classrooms in schools that are just fundamentally different. These kids have to think about things that no child should have to think about, their survival. That being said, I think today is a day to remember all of the good, all of the light that has come to this world since Sandy Hook. All of those families have started charitable organizations, not-for-profit organizations that have changed people's lives all around this country. We did begin building a modern anti-gun violence movement the day that Sandy Hook happened. And yes, it took us 10 years to finally get a federal law passed that tightens our nation's gun laws. But all across the country, there were 500 different laws and referendums at the state and local level that helped protect our schools. I get it. I know we have so much more progress to make. I know that these mass shootings still happen at an unacceptable clip. But today's a day to remember all of those kids, to think about all of the parents, to think about the Sandy Hook community, but to also realize that, amidst all of that grief, those families have stepped up and done incredible things to try to help Sandy Hook heal and to try to make schools and families healthier all across this country. And that's really what I'm thinking most about today.
10 years ago was a day that really ripped open Americans, broke Americans' heart in a way that 9/11 did as well. We, of course, everybody swore never again. Parkland came. Uvalde came. So many others came.
Every week, every day, sometimes.
It really was. And I want to talk about the progress that has been made, because Sandy Hook was a day that changed everything. I think the signing, you look at the shifts in opinion after Sandy Hook. I mean, opinion changed, and it led to what you were able to marshal through earlier this year. But before we get there, I do want to talk about the hell that these family members went through. Even after burying their children, the conspiracy theories about them, the conspiracy theories about their children, their dead children, the parents that had to move because of the conspiracy theories. We talked about our friends, we talked about our family members that feed into these conspiracy theories. Could you please, as someone who knows these families as well as you do, talk about the hell that these conspiracy theories and these lies from people like Alex Jones visited upon family members already grieving?
So I don't think any of us can understand what it feels like to lose a child. I don't even try to pretend to know what that experience is like. But then to lose a child in such a public way, right? That to have your grief have to exist not just privately, but with TV cameras essentially surrounding every corner of your little town. It's just a uniquely cataclysmic experience. And then within days, to have people with big megaphones in this country deny that your child ever died, to claim that you were an actor in some disgusting play. That started happening within days, within weeks of Sandy Hook. And the people who follow Alex Jones and his ilk started targeting these families, right? It wasn't that these families could ignore, if they wanted, the conspiracy theories that said Sandy Hook didn't happen. In fact, those people, started hunting the families in Sandy Hook. As you mentioned, some of them had to move away. But you know what? They didn't just take it. They fought back. Those families sued Alex Jones. They won in court. And whether or not Alex Jones will actually pay the money that he was ordered to pay, they sent a clear message to anybody else who's thinking about spreading these lies and conspiracy theories that there will be a price to be paid. But those families, by the way, didn't stop there. Many of them also sued the gun manufacturers that sold the guns to the shooter in Sandy Hook. And people said that they couldn't win that lawsuit either, and they won, which is going to make a lot of gun manufacturers think twice about how they market those guns. So these families have made a lot of change, even outside of the legislative arena, in the last 10 years.
Senator, this is it's hard to think of anything more shameful than that. I'm sure there are some things, but chasing down these families, going to their charity fundraising events and harassing them there when they're trying to raise money for their foundations, it's just awful. But I do want to focus a little bit on the families that you've gotten to know so well over the last decade. Unfortunately, you've had to have these relationships around what happened at Sandy Hook that day. Not just what they've been through publicly and all this Alex Jones of it all, but just their private battle, their grief over losing a kid, as you said, in such a horrific way, in such a public way. And then the survivors. You know, I think about the kids who were their age who survived in the school that day are juniors in high school right now. They're thinking about college, seniors in high school, getting ready to go off and do big things. And just how this horrific tragedy completely reshaped a town.
You know, Joe Biden came to our vigil last week commemorating the victims in Sandy Hook and all across the country, and he was introduced by one of those survivors. He was introduced by a pretty amazing teenager who was a second grader at the time, whose classroom was just across the hall. And what she said in introducing Joe Biden was that she's alive today only because the shooter decided to take a right instead of a left. And I think it is important on a day like today. You know, we have this number in Sandy Hook, 26 students and educators, but that's really not an accurate way to describe the grief, to describe the trauma. So many of those teachers, those first responders who entered the school that day, those kids, their lives are never, ever the same. And I think it's important to remember that today, in cities all across this country, there are kids who walk to and from school in violent neighborhoods who aren't sure that they're going to survive that commute. And so this trauma of gun violence in this country, it's not just about the mass shootings. It's also about the experience of living in places where gun violence is an everyday phenomenon. And so when you think about why we should feel such a white-hot imperative to change the laws of this country, to make this nation safer, it's not just about the number of victims, 100 plus a day. It's about all the other people who experience that trauma. And the people in Sandy Hook, man, they've performed miracles amidst that trauma. I don't want today to just be about sadness and grief for them. That should be our first emotion, but it should also be about admiration and gratitude for the ways in which they have taken that grief and changed our country for the better.
And speaking of admiration, we talk about those 20 kids. How about the 6 staff members, including the principal, Dawn Hawkspring, who came out into the hallway, confronted the gunman, tried to protect as many kids as she could, and was killed. The teachers who died huddling their students, putting their lives on the line for their kids. Just extraordinary courage, and they literally gave their lives for their kids. I guess it's hard to take any positive away from this, Senator, but what gives you hope 10 years on from this terrible, terrible tragedy?
Well, one of the things that gives me hope is all the ways that those families are changing this country. I was at a school in Connecticut a couple of months ago that was inspired and named after one of the children who was killed that day. And there are all sorts of work that's being done to try to build social emotional health all across our nation in the memory of those kids. But I also know that the laws of this nation are changing. This summer, we passed the Bipartisan Communities Act that is, as we speak, saving lives. I got a briefing just 2 weeks ago from the FBI, and they literally walked me through cases where that law that we passed this summer has stopped dangerous people from getting weapons, has possibly prevented mass shootings around this country. And, well, it shouldn't have taken 10 years for that law to pass. What I know is that we are now on a trajectory to regularly change the laws of this nation to protect our kids. And that is only available to us because those families in Sandy Hook and families, parents, kids all across the country decided after Sandy Hook to not let the gun lobby control Washington. It took us way too long to flip the balance of power here, but I really believe that that moment has occurred. So that gives me hope. I think for the next 10 years, we are going to be regularly changing the laws of this nation to tighten our firearms laws to make our communities and our schools safer.
Senator Murphy, good morning. It's Jonathan Lemire. Certainly our thoughts are with those families today. But I also wanted to get you on a couple of other topics in the news. First, the idea of a government shutdown. Congressional leaders last night really said they've reached a framework for a bipartisan deal that would keep the lights on, if you will. What can you tell us about what was reached, and how long it will go, and are things that you want to see in there going to be included?
Well, I'm very glad that they've reached this framework. We're going to all be briefed on it today. I've been hard at work helping to write part of that budget. I'm in charge of writing the budget for the Department of Homeland Security and the border, and we've been trying to find a path there that can get both Democratic and Republican votes, in particular trying to find a way to invest in technology and personnel along our border that's going to actually solve the problem rather than just get headlines. Listen, we can't do another continuing resolution. This is just an absolutely insane way to run this country. And so my hope is that we'll get the budget done next week. We might need a short-term continuing resolution to get there. And then hopefully next year we can get back to, the normal way of doing things, which does not involve every single year passing the budget right before Christmas. This is not inspiring confidence in the United States government, Democrats or Republicans.